Okay, hey, Eric Dombach here at the Coach's Coach, and I want to welcome everyone to this interview today with one of my favorite coaches in the world, Graham Mitchell. And this is going to be an amazing interview, and I am just really so grateful to be able to share this time with Graham. Graham, thank you for joining me, and are you able to hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, thank you, Eric.
All right. It's so good of you to be here. And your story is really such an inspirational story in terms of your journey as a business coach. And so let's jump right in and give some basic background information to get us started. Can you, for those who don't know you, what is your background in business prior to starting as a business coach?
Eric, I qualified as a chartered accountant and spent about 6 years after I qualified in the area of mergers and acquisitions advisory, advising companies on buying and selling businesses. And towards the end of my time in that particular area, I assisted a property development company raise about $50 million for a housing project in Zambia. And they asked me to join them, and I spent about 2.5 years with them as their chief operating officer, helping them get the Zambian project off the ground and then working on one of their new projects in Nigeria. And it was at that time I then started looking around at something to do on my own and wanted to help business owners build their businesses, and looked around at who the people in the market were that were doing this, and then decided to buy a business coaching franchise and started my business in January 2009.
Excellent. That is such an impressive background. Um, Strong background in accounting and finance, strong background in operations. And uh, what was the year that you said that you started the business coaching practice?
In January 2009.
January of 2009. And so let's talk a little bit about just the first couple years. And why don't we start with the revenue that you turned over in the first couple, 2, 3 years, as you were getting your business coaching business, which was also a franchise at the time, as you're getting that going. So, can you give us a little history there?
Sure, Eric. Yeah, the business started out slowly. I did about $85,000 in my first year, and it then actually started falling in the sort of first quarter of my second year. So the business wasn't in great shape, and that was sort of about the time that I joined my coach's coach. And at the end of the second year, did about $140,000. So it definitely picked up, or started to pick up in the second part of that year, and then it really started growing nicely. So in year three, I did about $270,000, so it pretty much doubled. And in year four, which has just gone past, I did over $300,000 in the year.
Wow. Okay. So that is an amazing story just in and of itself. In 2009, your first year, 85,000, and I want to point out that this is in U.S. dollars. So you were doing about $7,000 a month uh, in U.S. dollars in 2009. Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Okay. And then in 2010, things started to struggle a little bit, and then you took up coaching with Michael Cody here at the Coaches Coach. We're going to talk more about that later. But then things started to improve. 140,000 in 2010, then it doubled 270 in 2011, and in 2012 300,000. And this is such an impressive story. And I just want to say congratulations to you, because not only did you turn around what was becoming a little painful in 2010, but then you've actually just grown the business so amazingly over the past few years. So congratulations. I mean, it's just an amazing story.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. So before we get into the turnaround, just the stuff that happened for you, just to get you going the right direction, which is, I think, going to be really inspirational and hopefully very helpful to a lot of people who listen to this. Just a little more background. What are the top three coaching services, or even just the top couple coaching services that you sell? What is what are the services that make up your revenue mix and the relative percentages of each?
Eric, my revenue is almost entirely made up of one-to-one coaching sessions, um, either on a weekly or fortnightly basis with my clients. So at the moment, the business is fairly one-dimensional, and the intention going forward would be to start changing that mix. But at the moment, it's pretty much one-to-one coaching with clients.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Well, which just goes to show that it is possible to build a really quality business with just doing one-to-one coaching if that's what you really enjoy doing. So congratulations on that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the kind of the moment where you reached out to us. And as I recall, you reached out to us looking for some answers. Hey, what can I do to get this thing going and growing? And I remember having some conversation with you in a meeting, and we went through the flipping profile. So we did a flipping profile, 360-degree. We had you fill it out and some of your colleagues, and then you and I had a coaching session on the phone, and I took you through your constraints. We talked about the three killer constraints that business coaches can have. Those three killer constraints are the pushover, where somebody struggles to get their point of view across and concedes to the point of view of prospects in the sales environment, for example. So the pushover. There's also the quitter. This is the coach that struggles to keep going when times get tough, and that's also one of the killer constraints. So we've got the pushover, we've got the quitter, and then we've got the softy. The softy is the coach who has a hard time really holding people accountable and has a hard time telling the truth and so forth. And so we've identified these as the three killer constraints. Now, when we were debriefing your flipping profile, tell me a little bit about what you discovered. What stood out to you as the thing that was holding you back.
Well, the critical thing that was holding me back, Eric, was yeah, being too soft, being a pushover with the clients, and that was obviously a big source of negative impact on my business. I didn't, in my first year, have a problem getting clients. What I had a problem was keeping the clients. So if you look at my year and the number of clients I signed, there was not an issue there, but I churned through almost all of them in the first year. And so I wasn't really getting results for them. I wasn't keeping the clients. And so it was about 15 months into my business. It was certainly reaching a very low point. And I really sensed something was wrong. It wasn't, I wasn't working hard. It wasn't that I didn't feel I didn't have the abilities to coach clients. I just simply something was missing. And doing the flipping profile was a huge, huge help for me because it identified these constraints that were definitely holding me back. So certainly the area of being too soft, not being assertive of my opinions with my clients was one of the issues. Just given the period of not achieving the kind of success I'd expected had impacted on my confidence, and so that came through in the profile. And then just a sense of fun, being energy with my clients and creating that sense of positive energy with them was also missing. And so all of those were contributors to not getting the results that I had hoped for out of my coaching business.
That is such a valuable bit of reflection there, and I just want to actually thank you for your courage. Thank you for even being willing to share this. Whenever I do these flip and profile coaching sessions with people, I usually show my graphs of my flip and profile data, and I show people how I discovered what my constraints were and put together an action plan to, change them and so forth. But I appreciate you actually sharing so openly about what you were facing. And I'm looking at your data on my screen and remembering our conversation. Um, and it's true that what the data was showing is that your deference was very high. So that means
Mhm.
that you would tend to defer to the opinions of your clients, and
Correct.
your self confidence was really low. Even though you've been very
Yes.
successful, your self confidence was really low. So that contributed to this thing of kind of holding back and not telling the truth. And then your self critical was also very high. So it kind of combined those three scales: the self critical, deference, self confidence, and then your competitive scale was a little low. Those things combined kind of put you in a place where you were being too soft and being kind of maybe pushed around perhaps a little bit by your clients. Now, what was it like for you when you discovered, hey, this is what's going on? At least now I know about it. What happened for you mentally as you were, kind of processing all that?
I think, to be honest with you, Eric, it was one of the happiest days of my life. Real sense of relief, and just clarity. I just sensed there was a problem. I sensed it was assertiveness, but wasn't certain. And so to get that clarity meant I had something to work on. And so from almost sort of stumbling around in the dark, knowing something was wrong, knowing there was something that I was missing, and then finding that was for me extremely exciting because I was very passionate about my business, wanted it to be successful, and so to find one of those keys to unlock that was for me a huge breakthrough, and something that I will value for the rest of my life.
Wow. Thank you. I got to tell you, I had an experience sitting here just now that I haven't had very often. I was listening to what you shared just now about how it was such a happy day for you. It brought relief, clarity, and exciting. And I got chills up and down my body and almost wanted to, was actually moved to tears. I mean, wow. I mean, what an amazing uh, gift that whole process was. Certainly for yourself and also for me. And so thank you for sharing that. What an amazing thing. And the thing I love about this is it's based on science. I mean, this is the Flippin'
Mm,
Profile created by the Flippin Group down in Texas here in the United States, a
yeah.
multi-million dollar company, and it's you know PhD level statisticians who've developed this over the last decade or more. And it's based on 20 of the world's top performing business coaches looking at their data and developing statistical patterns for what it takes to be successful. And all of that research allowed us to look at your psychometric profile and your behavior patterns with an incredible level of precision and put our thumb right on it. This is the issue that's going on for you. And like you say, it brought a lot of relief and clarity. So congratulations on all of that. And what I'd like to hear about next, I suppose, is let's talk about what happened after that. So I remember at the end, and this was a while ago, as you said, back in 2010, so a couple of years ago. And I remember saying, um, all constraints can be changed if you're determined to change them. That's really the key. That's been the key in my life. If I want to change a constraint so I'm successful in my business, I can do it. But significant change rarely happens in a vacuum. It rarely happens on our own. So I said, hey, get with one of our coaches, and I put you with Michael Cody, because he, like myself, is also a certified Flippin' Profile analyst, but also an amazing business
Mm.
coach, very sharp guy. So you started coaching with him. So talk to me now a little bit about what happened from there. I mean, what was the journey like as you started working with Michael and started going after some of these things?
No, it was great, Eric. I mean, Michael focused up front very much on these constraints, so we spent time working on them to get them right, because that would give the biggest return as opposed to necessarily just focusing on sort of day-to-day practical stuff for the coaching business. But we worked on assertiveness, and Michael helped me a lot in that area, and he helped me a lot with confidence in that I had someone that I could come back to and discuss challenging clients. And remember a particular client which I signed probably a few months after, maybe 4 or 5 months after I started coaching with Michael, who were an extremely challenging client. They wanted to quit after 2 weeks. They pushed back on everything that I shared with them, and were a real handful. And having Michael there, I guess it was a real test of what we had been practicing and working on over the 4 to 5 month period. Having Michael there, on a weekly basis to work through that with me was invaluable. And I think that client was the client, if you could say, I cut my teeth on in terms of applying all of these principles, having fun with the guys, being assertive, holding them accountable. And that client's gone on to be very successful outcomes with them. They're still my client today. They're actually a very easy client to coach today. They've referred a lot of business to me, and that business has been also led to referrals. And so a lot of my clients today come out of the success of that coaching relationship. And that coaching relationship was a success because it really was the sort of test case that Michael and me worked on in terms of getting my coaching skills right. And yes, I always said to Michael, they're a very unprofitable client in my first year because I used to coach them and then have a coaching session with Michael on them. But the net result was, yes, a very different me in terms of coaching, and a lot of different results in terms of client retention and client success coming out of that.
That is such an amazing story about this first client that you signed that was a very challenging client, and you kind of cut your teeth on that client in terms of exhibiting some different behaviors that then produced results. Now, you mentioned holding them accountable, having fun with them. So these were some of the things that you did that would have probably felt unnatural given the behavioral constraints that you were trying to overcome. And so, if there are coaches listening to our interview today and they're aware that they've got some behavior patterns that are holding them back, and maybe they've done the flip and profile with us, or maybe they're contemplating it, but they know they're going to need to make changes, maybe just not sensing that something's not right, but not knowing what it is, but knowing they have to make some changes. Can you speak to the issue of what it was like for you when you were about to, or were getting used to, deliberately exhibiting some different behaviors that just felt unnatural to you? Was there fear there? Was there excitement? What was the emotional journey as you were learning some new behaviors?
I think there was stress. There definitely was a high level of stress in those coaching sessions. I think that's why my comment was that today they're a very easy client to coach, and it's very natural. But when we're first coaching, it was very stressful. The sessions were intense for me and required everything that I could give to make the session successful. And so certainly a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Am I doing the right thing? Am I getting this right? And I think that's where having a coach was very critical, because I had that sounding board that I could draw on and get insight, get encouragement, get clarity, and that was invaluable in applying and changing my behaviors. And it was good that I had some good clients to practice on, so to speak, but definitely having someone to walk through that process with me was very important.
So excellent. Thank you for that. Now I'm also curious. There's obviously two major significant ways that we grow our coaching business. The first one is getting clients, and the second is keeping clients. And you had mentioned that in the first year or so, when you were struggling with the softy and the pushover constraints, that your clients were leaving you. But then after you began making these changes and so forth, this particular client you said is still your client. Now that would be over 2 years later, is my understanding, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So evidently the coaching that you're doing now is working, and they're happy and they're staying with you. So removing these constraints has changed you from the standpoint of keeping the clients. But let's talk a little bit about getting clients. As you started removing these constraints by deliberately introducing new behavior patterns with the encouragement and the insight of your coach and all that, what did it do for you in terms of your sales and closing sales and the assertiveness that you were learning? What did that do for you in securing new business?
I think what sort of first interactions with the client or my sort of free coaching session that I have with them, I was a lot more comfortable to coach them in that session. And so where we uncovered issues in the business, I actually would coach them on that issue right then and then. And out of that, they got a very strong appreciation of what coaching looked like and what it was like to be coached, and the benefits that they got out of that. And so certainly some of my bigger clients that I have today certainly remember back to my initial session with them where I was able to coach them on a very particular issue they had, and that built the trust and credibility that I could add value to them, and that coaching was something that would work for them in their business.
So that's really an impressive story. And just if I'm understanding you right, your method was to go out and do a complimentary or free coaching session with a prospect. And what I think I'm hearing you say is that as you were developing these skills of being more assertive, bringing your aggression scale up, bringing your self-critical scale down, your deference scale down, and as you were bringing forward that assertiveness, if I'm hearing you right, one of the effects of that was even in meeting with a prospect, you were just really beginning to assertively coach them, asserting your opinions, asserting your just your confidence into the situation, which then gave them much more comfort around buying from you, right?
Yes, absolutely, Eric.
So
Yeah.
one of the interesting things, and I don't know if you've measured this or if you have the numbers close by, but do you have any sense of how your conversion rate may have been impacted over that period of time, particularly in 2010 when you were doing these really deliberate behavior modification processes with Michael?
Don't have the specific numbers in front of me, Eric, but I would say it would have definitely improved. There's no doubt about that. And I would say it would have improved from about 50%, which is where I was probably, to where it stands today in the region of 80, 90%.
Well, 50% all by itself is a pretty good number. And there are a lot of coaches that would be very, very happy with a 50% conversion rate. And then to go to 80 or 90%, I mean, that's just absolutely gorgeous. So congratulations on that. But very, very impressive. Very, very impressive indeed. So, I just want to make the point here that all of us have constraints, and knowing what the constraints are gives us a huge leg up in terms of really deliberately improving ourselves and making the change we need to make. So I guess I appreciate your time so much, Graham. As you're thinking about the kind of business coaches that are involved at the Coaches Coach here, reading our blogs, involved in our membership programs and so forth, and perhaps business coaches that are looking to come into the business. Now, you had already been in the business when you came to us, and you were looking for a breakthrough, but there are coaches who are coming into the business and hanging out at the Coaches Coach. Uh, what advice do you have with for coaches as they're thinking about getting started in the business? Is there advice you have about doing the flip and profile as part of the startup process, as part of the due diligence process? What advice do you have for business coaches based on your experience?
Yes, Eric. I mean, doing the flip and profile is a must. I wouldn't want anyone to wait 15 months like I did before doing it, because that's a lot of wasted time where you're losing business and frustration because there are things that you could know about and be working on that you wouldn't know if you didn't do the flip and profile. So I think for anyone coming in to the business or looking to get into the business, certainly the flip and profile would be a first thing, and I've certainly recommended that to people who have expressed an interest to me of getting into coaching, because I think that's an absolute starting point. And I think certainly the session that I had with you on the flip and profile was very valuable, and you know, you, Eric, and all the coaches at my coach have great insight into what it takes to be a successful coach, and can give that assessment and feedback. My view is, for a prospective coach, coming to my coach's coach to get insights into what it would be to build a coaching business, to do the flip and profile, is a great starting point to really find out what this thing about business coaching is all about. What is the journey going to look like? What are the challenges? What are the skills you're going to need to have? And to get that feedback from the likes of you, Eric, and your team, who are top coaches, who've been through the process, and you've not only done that, but you've added a layer of real, the right word is sophistication and technology in the flip and profile to it, means they're going to get themselves off to the right start if they choose to go into business coaching.
Well, that is very, very kind of you. Thank you for all your kind words about us, certainly, and certainly I agree with you. Forewarned is forearmed. The more we know about who we are as people, our strengths and our weaknesses, the places where we're vulnerable in terms of our behavioral patterns, the higher the likelihood that we can be successful as we enter into it. So I think those are very, very good words. Uh, any other words of advice? I mean, you are now you're a bit of a rarity in that you're 4 years into your business coaching career. You've become very successful. You're focused on one thing, one-on-one coaching in your coaching business, and you're doing an absolutely great job. And I'm really just proud to know you. But any other final words of advice or encouragement for aspiring business coaches before we wrap up today?
Yes, I mean, I think final thoughts is, if you passionately want to do or become a business coach, and that's something that really drives you and something you really want, then there's certainly a way to go about getting there. It won't necessarily be an easy road, but if it's something you're passionate about, there's certainly the tools out there and the people out there that can guide you and help you along that road, and so it's important to take advantage of that. But I think it comes down to, yes, being passionate about being successful in the business, and I think if you're starting off with that passion, then you can identify areas for improvement and learn and grow, and out of that build a successful business. So it's certainly a very exciting business to be in, and a lot of fun and very rewarding. And so if you're a business coach and in the business, then if that side of the equation is right in terms of your desire and your passion, then there certainly are the tools out there that can help you become a great coach and be successful in this particular business. So yeah, those would be my final thoughts.
Well, Graham, thank you. Thank you so very much. You've taken time out of your day to share your experience that I know is going to be a real blessing and encouragement to a lot of people. It's a gift that you're giving back to the business coaching community, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining the call and for enjoying this time with us today. Eric Dombach here at the Coach's Coach, and we will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.